first and foremost, just a little bit, say, touch on about my sort of background. So, from an academic standpoint, did my undergraduate at Manchester Met. I went on and did my MSc at University of Edinburgh. I've also done my UKSCA. I think that was about 12 or 13 years ago now. Did my Isaac, and I'm currently doing a supervised experience in terms of my basis. So anyone that's working in the football world right now probably know that like basis is one of the big ones that most performance departments want to tick off. And again, if these guys are looking potentially coming across the water or going into professional football, like they're the sort of five key pillars that you're looking for from an academic standpoint. So undergrad, postgrad, have you done your UKSCA, or you're en route to doing that? Can you get your Isaac? Body composition does become a real priority, especially in them transitional stages from academy up into professional football. And then finally, that basis experience, either that supervised route or the straight one. So currently I'm doing my supervised, the supervised experience. That's a 2 year, 18 months to 2 year process. And actually it's been very worthwhile. But yeah, there's a lot of webinars and additional educational stuff around it. So it's a bit of a longer process than UKSCA. So my job roles over the last couple of years. So I spent 5 years at Edinburgh University, in their performance department. So again, that was when university sport was going from its sort of infancy of like participation and then so slowly graduated up to performance sport where a lot of institutes and stuff connected onto a lot of governing bodies started tagging on to university-based program, that more of an American model that's sort of come into the UK in the last sort of 10, 15 years. From there, I was fortunate enough to go over to New Zealand. Fortunate enough to work with Davy Gray at the Hurricanes for a year. And that sort of came through the links of what I had with Edinburgh Uni. So while I was at Edinburgh Uni, I worked for Scottish Hockey, so I was able to do Euros and international tournaments with them during my downtime at university. So that was awesome. So I did the under 21s, under 18s, and under 16s boys during that time. I also worked for Livingston FC at that time. So again, I had a full-time role, but when I had downtime, I'd go out and do other bits and pieces again, just trying to expand on what I was doing. I was also working for Edinburgh Accies, which is a Premiership team here. So amateur level, like All Ireland League, similar equivalent to Scotland over here. Team over here called Edinburgh Accies. So I worked for them, and that's actually how I got my connections to end up going to the Hurricanes. Went over to the Hurricanes, spent a year with Davy and over there, and like Davy and Dash are really top operators over there. I had a great year. I was really fortunate to work with some excellent people, like the people on the picture right there. It's Jason Holland, formerly of Munster, and now the attack coach for the ABs, and Cormac Ryan, another Irishman. He's at Loughborough University now as well, and he's formerly a Wasps. So again, a really good learning experience, and one of them ones like, hey, pretty fortunate to actually tick the box and win something that year, which again, if you've ever worked in professional sport, doesn't happen very regularly at all. So we had good experience from there. From there, I went over to Newcastle Falcons, headed up the academy, spent a couple of good seasons there at Newcastle. Again, another different experience going from a Hurricane squad with 32 players going to a Falcons first team that had 55, an academy of 120, 130 boys from under 15s, under 17s, under 18s. So yeah, another really good experience. I actually lived in Newcastle and commuted up and down from Edinburgh quite a lot. So that was a fun 2 year experience. And again, if you know the locations of Newcastle compared to the rest of the teams in the UK, every day's an away day. So like our closest away day was Manchester, which is 3 hours away. So again, every day you're on the bus, on the van, traveling, going around all England to do all the games and whatever else, doing European competition, having the experience of balancing not only the Premiership, but the the European competitions and the Premiership Cup, as well as A-League reserve games. So again, really good experience, and I really still keep in contact with the boys at Newcastle Falcons pretty regularly. And then I was fortunate enough to get the role with the Scottish Institute of Sport. My daughter was due that year, so it was a big push for me to come home full time. So I got a job at Scottish Institute of Sport based in Stirling, and I did triathlon and canoe and kayak. So it was a 50-50 role, working with endurance athletes and strength power athletes. So again, a good experience there working with two different types of people, but again, they're development athletes. They're just young people who are interested in sports. And then finally, then I actually missed the SRU from the Scottish Institute of Sport. I went to the SRU. I did about four years of the SRU. Did the regional academy, the twenties. Went to under 20 Six Nations, under 20 World Cup. Um, and then went back to Edinburgh Rugby in a role there for a year as well before finally ending up back at moving across the road and going to Harlem Midlothian Football Club, and that's where I'm at right now. Um, so I'll give you a bit of perspective what the club actually looks like and feels like. Again, some of you guys might know Scottish football well, some not so well. Maybe you know Celtic and Rangers. So Hearts and Hibs and Aberdeen are that make up the rest of the top five in the country. Hearts, we have a stadium of around 20,000 at Tynecastle, so just across the road from Murrayfield, right in the middle of Edinburgh. So yeah, really good club. We actually don't train in town, we train outside of town. So if you've ever seen the Full Contact um, Netflix series, we train in a place called Oriam, which is at Heriot Watt University. It's on the outside of the city. I only live like 10-15 minutes away from the training ground, which is great. It makes it an easy commute every day. But it is a shared facility. So again, when I'm sort of chatting through some of the considerations and stuff, hey, just like we do work in a shared facility. So the SRU are there with like the national team are there right now, prepping for France this weekend. We also be there. There'll be the university's own sports, like clubs and from football, rugby, all will be using the facility. You'll have the Scottish under 20s rugby will be there. The Scottish Institute of Sport are there. So again, from a facility standpoint, say we are based there, but again, you have to work in within the actual requirements of the facility. So it takes a lot of effort in terms of booking facilities, make sure you can maintain your facilities as best as you can, and working around as best as you can. And, we're pretty fortunate, like in terms of our men's first team, they're doing okay this season. I think we're sixth in the table. Again, the aim is to be in that top three and get European selection moving forward. And a couple of players that you might know is like Craig Gordon, who's like an all-time legend at the club. Used to be at Sunderland. I think he was the formerly British most expensive goalkeeper for about 15 years. When he went to Sunderland from Hearts originally for like 9.8 million when Roy Keane was in charge. And then probably the most successful right now is a young fellow called James Wilson. So he's a boy in our under 18s. He's actually 17, and he got selected for the nationals team for Scotland for the Euro qualifiers here now. So James is a big success story within the academy right now. So again, I'll give you a bit of context around the club. The club's also fan owned, so it's the biggest fan owned club in the UK. So that filters into the philosophy of the club. So again, how our academy structure works. From boys' standpoint, we go from 16s, 15s, 14s, 13s, all the way down to under nines. And on the girls' side of things, we go 17s, 15s, 13s, and then we have a developmental center. Because the club is fan owned, we also put a precedent that we have to, or we want to share our facilities as best we can across the boys and girls pathways. So it's a shared 50% split. So unlike maybe some clubs where the boys' academy will train on one day or in a different venue, and the girls will travel on another one, that's not, it's a one club model. So we frequently mix our girls and boys pathways all the time. And from a staff perspective, say I lead up the performance side from the academy, is that our expectations as our staff work across both the boys and girls pathway. So I don't just work with the boys 16s or 15s. I work with the girls 17s, the developmental center. It doesn't matter. That's our expectations, that we work across both the boys and girls. A pathway at all times. So again, that's just from a club philosophy standpoint. Give you a bit of like what my sort of role looks like. So there's probably a bit of half and half. So yeah, in that top side, there's like athletic development is still like precedent. So again, I still look after that. I'm really fortunate to have a good staff around me. I have a lead sports scientist who's part-time and then two assistant part-time sports scientists. Two of them have PhDs, which I'm really fortunate about. So they're a lot smarter than me and keep me in check. Um, and then we have a physio and a lead physiotherapist and an assistant physiotherapist who are both full time. So that's our like core group of in terms of our performance staff. We also have a nutritionist and a psychologist who work in on an ad hoc basis in terms of certain projects and certain players that we might have to look at. My job, so we also have the doc who also works on that ad hoc basis. So my job is really to provide leadership within that group and a management structure within that group. So again, we're from how much athletic development our players get to our medical care, our rehabilitation protocols, as well as our testing and monitoring, to terms of our philosophy and around athletic development, what that looks like in the gym, what it looks like on the pitch. That's my job to head that process up. On the other side of it is a bit of a more the data management and the reporting side of things. So again, I'll lead on that in terms of how many minutes they're playing, what the players' IDPs are, where they're playing, how they're playing. Work with the recruitment staff as well about profiling players when they do come into the club. What does that look like? What does it feel like? They go through a trial period. We'll do a review off the back of it. So again, we'll give some physical metrics around how they get on, how they profile against their own peer group, as well as what's above them or below them. So again, then when we're making decisions around recruiting players, that we're making the best informed practice that we can. Um, I'll also work quite a lot with our heads of phases. So again, if we have a boys' heads of phase and a girls' heads of phase, so I'll work a lot with them in terms of the reintegration or rehabilitation of players. So when they're back, when they're available, and again, if you worked in that academy space, you'll know that boys and girls switch between age groups quite a lot. So they'll play up, or they may play down in some cases. So I'll work with them on a weekly, day-to-day basis. Is like what do them squads look like, feel like, and how we can best manage our practice along that week. And that last little bit is just also work with my head of performance. So my direct line manager's head of performance for the whole club. But his main remit is around the men's first team. So I work with Bob in terms of delivering a CPD model as well for all our staff. So again, what that education looks like. So across all them different pillars from athletic development to testing and monitoring to from psychology to nutrition. So I make sure that's ongoing. And that's not only for our players and staff, but also for our parents. And hopefully we can chip back and have a look at some of the bits and pieces through that as we go.